Welcome back to the Move IQ podcast. I'm Nicola. This is Lexi. So today we are talking red flags, not like relationship red flags. We're talking property listing red flags, which I think is something that is really important to think about, because when you're looking for a new property that you're trying to find for yourself, you'd always need to go with your gut.
Absolutely. I think you've hit the nail on the head, because property is one of the most expensive things that we're really ever going to buy.
Yes.
So we want to make sure we're not making a mistake.
Yes.
And there's so many dodgy things that happen online, as we know, and one of them can be red flag property listings. So we basically want to help you not to get scammed and to spot the warning signs, particularly when it comes to adverts and listings of properties.
I mean, off the top of my head, the first thing that pops in my head is as soon as you click on a property and you look at the images, for me, a red flag, this is back when we were looking at properties a couple of years ago before we bought our current house, is people taking a photo of a room with a wide angle lens. Now, this bugs me, because obviously normally when you look on Rightmove or wherever, you've normally got the property layout, the blueprint, if you will, you can see the size of the rooms, etc. But if they're taking a photo of a room on a wide angle lens, it makes the room look so much bigger.
Yeah.
And it just seems like, is it? I know that this is wide angle because I can tell from this photo. So there's a part of me that now just doesn't trust this estate agent.
Yeah, no, I get it. I guess, when we're talking about red flags, that is something to just think about. It's not necessarily a sign that someone's trying to scam you.
No.
But that is a completely normal tactic and trick that agents will use to make a space look bigger than it is. So absolutely something to look out for if something has been taken on a wide angle lens. It's always a bit of a question, isn't it? And I think that's so why you have to go and see properties and physically get in there and go and actually view something.
Yeah.
So for sure, pictures is definitely one thing to look out for. And it's not just what's necessarily been taken and how that shot's been taken, but is there a lack of pictures? Sometimes you might just see the outside of a property. That could be a good or a bad thing. It's all about going with your gut. If something feels wrong, it probably is wrong.
Why is there not a picture of the bathroom? What's wrong with the bathroom?
Why is there not a picture of a kitchen? One of the most sellable spaces and you're not advertising?
What's wrong with it?
Yeah, exactly. What's wrong with it, for sure. And just the fact that, sometimes if there's just a picture of the outside of the house, why are they not showing the inside of it? Anyone could technically go and take a picture of the outside of a building and claim it's for sale, but they haven't been able to get that access internally. Sometimes it's a good thing because you actually want to view. Yes, yeah. And sometimes it's a good thing because actually a lot that will put a lot of people off viewing a listing or going to ask to view a listing because they don't know what the internal pictures are like. For me, as an investor, I quite like that because I'm like, brilliant. No one else is actually going to go in and view this property, which means that it's probably going to look a bit of a mess. And I don't really mind that because that's what I'm looking for.
I know, that's where you
shine. Give me bad kitchens and the green carpet. But yes, there was a huge set of scams that happened just after COVID when you couldn't physically go and actually get into properties and go and view things.
Yeah.
People were taking stuff based on video viewings, which it still happens nowadays, particularly for people that are coming in from abroad. Maybe they aren't here in the UK to actually go and physically look at a property. But people were taking advantage of the fact that people were taking properties based on video viewings. So there was a whole documentary series about it as well, where a lot of it happened up north, weirdly. Odd. I know. Where people would take a picture of the outside of a building. They'd steal photos from other genuine listings online. They'd put them on, not the big, the Rightmoves, the Zooplas that are on the market, the big property portals, because they have such big vetting systems, and we'll discuss those later, but they would put them on Facebook or Gumtree where you can easily pop up an advert. People would then, look at these pictures, and underneath in the advertisement, it would say, first come, first serve. We've got loads of people that want to take this property, and people would literally take it based on the pictures. Someone would claim that they owned that property. They were the landlord. They were renting it out. And people would pay them multiple deposits. Like multiple people would pay them deposits. You turn up to get the keys. No one's there.
I mean, look.
Yeah, it's terrifying.
I've been working with Move IQ for a while. I'm not essentially a property expert, but I've learned a lot from working with Move IQ and from doing this podcast and working with people like you and people like Phil, etc. Even I know not to put money down on a property that I haven't looked at in person. That's not right. I mean, when we sold our house, we paid a little bit extra to do like a 3D walkthrough of the house. So they went in every room, they set up a 360 camera.
Yep.
So then you could essentially go on Rightmove, look at our house, and then walk through every room, like click through it and like then walk up the stairs and then walk into each bedroom and look around every nook and cranny. I like that. So whenever we were looking and other properties had that same thing, I was like, great.
Yeah.
Nothing to hide here.
Absolutely. And things like that, you know, when you're talking about these 3D 360s, you've got Giraffe 360, you've got Matterport, which are companies that offer these services. People have to pay for those. So that is a brilliant green flag that someone's actually spent money on their listings. A scammer's not going to go and do that because they aren't going to have access to the property, or they're not going to outlay money to back up their scam.
I think it's a case of where you're looking for property in the first place. If you spot somewhere on Facebook or spot somewhere on Gumtree, there's a red flag there for me. If it's not up on Rightmove, if it's not up on the proper websites, then it just, for me, does not sit right.
Exactly. And that's one of the first things, if you're doing your property search, using the portals that have these vetting systems in place. So Rightmove, Zoopla, On the Market, they will want to know that it's a business behind who. No, we couldn't just go and whack an advert up on Rightmove. It's got to come from an established estate agent.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Important.
Very important.
If it's too good to be true, well, if it seems too good to be true, then it probably is.
It's always the thing that we keep going back to. Absolutely. And those things that we ran through. So looking at prices of something, when we talk about too good to be true, sometimes you're sucked in by the price, right? You think, hang on a minute.
Yeah.
I've researched this street. I've been doing my property search. I kind of have an inkling of how much houses are going for on this street.
Yes.
Why is this one so cheap? That can be a sign in itself, because it's almost like baiting you in. That you think, oh, this sounds great, I'm getting a deal here. But actually people might be using that as a way to get people to come to scam them.
Well, see, that's a tricky one though, because every now and again you might get a property that is slightly cheaper because the owners want to move out quicker. There's a whole different scenario going on behind the scenes that you don't really know about. And you're like, well, actually, this is 50 grand cheaper than the house next door. I wonder why. Oh no, actually it's because you want to sell pretty quick because you want to get the hell out of there. Or maybe because they have to move abroad or something like that. I don't know. Yeah. So sometimes it makes sense, but not all the time.
But not all the time. And I think that comes back to who you were dealing with, and not only where did you find that advert, was it through a legitimate site, but then who are you dealing with? A lot of the time you're going to be dealing with an estate agent, right? So it's very hard to fake being an estate agent. Obviously people do it, but how do you make sure that you aren't talking to someone that is pretending to be an estate agent? One thing is obviously to check with their company. You know, if they're in the UK, most estate agents belong to a bigger company. They're not independent estate agents working as a complete individual. They'll be part of a brand of estate agents, or they'll have an office that they work from. So pop into the office, ask to meet at the office.
Yeah.
I think particularly, I know this isn't necessarily on topic, but as a safety factor, if you're ever in doubt, or you're going to a viewing on your own and you're a little bit unsure, ask to go and meet at the estate agent's office. They're not going to say no, are they?
I wouldn't think of that.
And if they do say no, that is a suspicious thing in itself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's certain things when it comes to rental property. I mean, for me, I haven't rented in a very long time. I've always been mortgage to mortgage for the last few years of my life. But in terms of renting, like I've been reading in places that people go to view somewhere to rent, or before they're allowed to view the place, they're instantly asked to put a deposit down before they're allowed to even view the property and that kind of thing. And that doesn't sit right with me.
No, do not put any money down at all before you've seen contracts, because this is where unfortunately a lot of people got scammed, particularly after COVID. And it's rentals more than actually buying a property. To buy a property, you know, you've got to go through so much legislation, you've got to go through so much signing of paperwork. It's very hard to scam someone when you're buying a property. It happens, unfortunately, but it's much harder. The rental side of things is where most people are being scammed when it comes to property scams. And that's because, you know, I could go, so sometimes I put my properties on with open rent, for example, where you're a landlord, it's through an online open rent, you are the one that goes out, you do the viewings, and that, I guess, things like that have made it easier for people to get scammed. So I could go and put one of my properties on open rent. I can buy my own contract online. You can get a templated contract from like Payne and Smith solicitors of a tenancy agreement very easily. You can even download stuff off online. Not that we're giving scammers tips here, but it's
Here's all your scamming tip needs.
But it's an easier thing to do, which is why it's so important to go through a reputable agent. So you can ask the estate agent who, you know, are they backed by the property ombudsman? Are they a member of Property Mark?
Yeah.
Are they a member of the PRS, which is the Property Redress Scheme? So there's all these things that you can ask the agents that if they're part of something like that, brilliant. If they're not part of a body like that, that is a bit of a red flag in itself. I think always when it comes to property, do your due diligence, right? Understand the process, know what to expect. So as a relocation agent, a lot of my clients for rentals have, not necessarily a lot, but some of them have come to me because they've been scammed. And they're like, please help me. This situation has happened to me. I mean, I had one poor guy who had met the person that had scammed him. He'd physically gone and met this guy. He'd been shown round a property. He went to collect the keys. That property was then empty, because the guy was clearly trying to like sublet or rent his own place. No one was there to hand him keys, and he'd handed over £2,500.
No.
Yeah. And I think particularly when people...
How are you supposed to tell though when he's met someone and he's looked around the property? How are you supposed to tell? You can't tell.
Well, you can, because you're renting through someone that is just it's a person you've met basically on the street. That's why it's so important to go through the agents. Absolutely. I know.
Did he have a feeling in his gut that there was something not quite right?
No, he said he didn't, because the guy was super friendly, and my client had come from abroad. So processes in different parts of the world are very different when it comes to property.
Yeah.
And I think that's by coming to the UK, unfortunately, people are taken advantage of if they don't understand the process and understand the system. So when it comes to putting down deposits, the normal process of renting is that you'd go and see a property through the estate agent, you'd put forward your offer in writing, they then put it forward to the landlord, they come back, you may renegotiate a couple of times. Only when it's accepted by both sides do you put down a holding deposit, and that holding deposit is normally 1 week's rent.
Right.
That's supposed to take the property off the market. I say supposedly, you're relying on the agent here being a good agent. And taking the property off the market, meaning that no one else can go in and view, no one else can offer. So it's your property until you pass referencing. The next stage, you go through referencing. Then you will see a copy of the contract. You can have a read through it. You can give it to a friend, family member to have a read through it. You can use things like ChatGPT and put it into that and say, are there any red flags here? What are the things that I need to look out for? You can use tools like us here at Move IQ. We've got so much information online about these processes that you can find. Once you've read through that, before you move into the property, you're paying a 5-week damages deposit. That is held for the duration of the tenancy and returned to you in full, subject to any major damages. They take into account wear and tear. But if you've punched a hole through the wall, they're taking that out of that deposit. Now, that deposit is another big thing. Where is it being held? You want to ask that question to the agent.
Okay.
Because you want to know that it's being held with a third-party company. You don't want it held necessarily by the agent. You don't want it held by the landlord. You want it held in something like My Deposits, TDS, which is the Tenancy Deposit Scheme. There's DPS, which is Deposit Protection Service. So you want to know that that money is being held and a landlord can't just walk off with it. So if there is a dispute at the end of your tenancy, you've got to go through one of these schemes for the landlord to get that money. They can't just hold it from you. It has to be agreed. So you want to check where those deposits are being held. You're paying your first month's rent up front minus that 1 week holding deposit.
This is why I love talking to you. You're just full of all this information that people wouldn't normally think about. There is so much paperwork, so much to be done ahead of moving into any property, be it mortgage, be it renting, be it whatever.
For sure.
There's so much that you need to
really
be that
good
person.
Point there as well in terms of how much paperwork there is to go through.
Yeah.
Because that's another red flag. If someone says to you, you can move into this property tomorrow, Well, hang on a minute. I've got to go through referencing.
Yeah.
That takes 24 hours or even 48 hours. You've got to have a copy of the tenancy agreement. You've got to read through it. You've got to sign it. You can't move in tomorrow. We always say it takes 5 to 7, maybe 10 days to get all the paperwork done. Yeah,
it's a lot of things.
It's okay.
You need to be
you.
that. You need to be that over the top,
Yes.
really seriously organised person.
Yeah.
Which I am not.
Ah.
That my husband is that person. He is Mr. Organisation. So when it comes to any time we've moved house, he is Mr. Paperwork, deals with all of that stuff, and I just sit there and go, "That's nice.
Like, okay, cool.
I like this
fine.
place. It looks really lovely." But there's certain things as well that you can do if you spot online. If you spot, I don't know, maybe it looks like your dream home, but there's something that doesn't quite look right. You can do like Google reverse image search.
Yep.
So say there's a room that just looks stunning, and you're like, I don't know. You can take that image and reverse search on Google. And if it's just a random copied image from another article or something like that, then you can go,
huge
right,
red flag.
no, it's a no. Or you can go, yes, that's confirmed, it's good, green flag, lovely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that sadly would have saved a lot of people when we keep going back to, you know, those scams that were happening just after COVID, because that's exactly how they were doing it. They were taking genuine listings,
Yeah.
stealing those photos and using them on a different website. Whereas if people took those images, put them back into the Google.
Yeah.
The Google?
Into the
The
Google.
Google.
Yeah, she's not tech savvy, that's why she goes with paper and I've got the iPad.
This is why I need a paper. Absolutely. I'm not the techie one in this situation.
Love it, absolutely
But
love
if they
it.
had done that and they'd done the reverse image search, it basically would then come up with, oh, this estate agent has actually got that property on the market, which is a
Yes.
red flag to go, okay, these images might have been stolen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me about this documentary. I feel like I've missed on this Channel 4 documentary that everyone's talking about.
It was out in, I can't remember which, 2023 maybe?
Yeah.
It was called the £12 million rental scam.
Yeah.
And this is exactly what it was talking about. These scams that these poor people went through, that they were thinking they were renting a property. And exactly what we said, that's what people were doing. They were stealing pictures, taking advantage of the fact that people couldn't go and actually physically do viewings, relying on just looking at the pictures. So, you know, someone was probably texting them saying, hey, come and view this property, or we've got this property, we need to take a deposit now, otherwise there's 20 other people that want to come and see it. It's first come, first served. And these are all things that you want to, all red flag words that you want to look for, particularly if someone's texting you. First come, first served. That kind of, you've got to be in a rush to get this property, and, you know, being quite almost aggressive in the way that they're texting you and trying to rush you.
If they were texting me, I'd be like, oh,
Yeah,
that's cool. They're
pick up the
texting
phone
me.
and-
That's
yeah.
nice. I'd be like, oh, this is obviously just a nice casual relationship we have. I think that's kind of cool. Like, I wouldn't question that, if I'm honest with you.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, there were 5,000 cases that had actually been reported to authorities. These are the people that had actually reported them. So think of how many other cases there are going to be that went unreported, because it was so hard to catch these criminals, because only 1% resulted in criminal charges, which is shocking, because if people hadn't physically met these people in person, the only thing they had was a phone number.
Yeah.
And we all know how easy it is to get rid of a phone,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
And so none of these people were caught. 1% of them were caught, and victims lost £12 million.
I mean,
to
it
rent
says
fraud.
it features a poignant personal story, such as a renter who paid over £8,000 up front for a supposed London flat,
Yeah.
only to discover it was actually an Airbnb and not a genuine rental.
Yeah.
£1,000.
Yeah. And that is how people, so, you know, like reverse back to when I mentioned my client that had put down £2,500 and he'd physically met the person and viewed the property. That very well could have been an Airbnb. Someone staying in an Airbnb has done a video, invites people around to come and have a look. And that's why it's so important. Again, we keep stressing it, to go back through agents. Don't just rely on random people claiming that they're the owner.
Yeah.
If you really, really get to the point where you're thinking, okay, I'm so far into this now, I'm still not 100% sure, my gut is still telling me something's wrong, you can go to land registry. It does cost you, it's about £20, but you can
worth it.
you can see who owns that property.
Okay. I mean, this is a lot to take. This whole thing makes me really stressed.
I know, it's very stressful.
Because I mean, you also think, I mean, as much as, you might get dodgy moments from people that are genuine scammers, but I think also you get red flags when it comes to certain estate agents that you need to go with your gut feeling with. I know we have that same experience when we sold our house a couple of years ago, and we brought round 3 estate agents come and look around the house, as you would traditionally do, to sort of price up the house, have a look around, and then see which one we were going to choose. And there was one guy, also annoyingly we chose him in the end, but there was one guy, and he came round, I'm not going to name any names, but he came round and he was like, I can sell this house tomorrow. I can sell this house tomorrow. I've already got, there's a guy that I know that's looking for this exact house. I can sell it tomorrow. We still weren't sold after about 9 months.
No way.
And we remember going, you said that you could sell this
tomorrow?
Yeah. And he was like, oh yeah, no, that just didn't work out. And it was one of those where you're like, oh, that's, And there was little things as well that happened along the way of the estate agents that worked within that company coming round to sort of show people around our house. And they didn't know anything about our house. So it would be like the house that we had the house and then the garage was round the back. It wasn't connected to the house. And it was little things like they didn't know which garage was ours. They didn't know where the dishwasher was and things like that. And all I was thinking was, we're giving you money to sell our house here, and you haven't even done enough research to see which garage is ours and where the dishwasher might be. And actually, the time that we ended up selling the house was the time that my husband showed the people around. Yeah. So there's little things like that I think if we would have really gone with our gut, which is what we should have done, we should have gone with a different estate agent that were just genuine and were like, we might not be able to sell this tomorrow, but we think roughly it will be around this price and we'll absolutely do our best. We're a family-run business, but they're just completely lovely, honest people. Whereas we went with the guy that went, I can sell this tomorrow.
I can sell this tomorrow.
I can sell this tomorrow at a really high price. You're like, oh, wow.
You're like, yes.
Wow. Too good to be true. It was.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
And I think, if you're worried about that and you're selling your property, always get multiple opinions. So we will always get round 3 estate agents. I guess that is the general rule of thumb. You get round the local expert, you get round a big brand, and then you can maybe look on Rightmove, Zoopla, and get someone that's kind of top of the field in your area. Have them all come round and give their opinion. And then instead of going, you might find one of them is like your guy's like, I can sell it tomorrow. Actually, the other 2 are giving you a more valid, in-depth. Yes. But now what we've learned, because the house that we bought in the end, the house that we're in now, was actually owned by an estate agent that runs his own estate agency company. And we got to know him, and he knows our house because he lived in it. So whenever we move from the house that we're in now, he's the guy that's selling it. He's the guy that sells it.
He knows the house. I'll be like, we'll just go with you, fine.
Exactly. I absolutely agree. And we talked obviously a lot there about rental scams, and I did mention that it's far more common, unfortunately, if you're renting a property, for these scammers to be active rather than buying. But obviously, if you are buying a property, still use that same, if it feels wrong, it probably is wrong. Use your gut instinct. And I think we were discussing before we actually talked about the podcast, people that try and upsell their services. So you might come across a lot of estate agents. I mean, a lot of estate agents work with partners, but if they're being pushy to say, well, we can't sell you this property unless you use our solicitor or our mortgage broker. That is a huge red flag. And there was actually another documentary recently by a lady called Lucy Valance on the BBC. I don't know if you saw it or not, but it was that was all about looking at the underworld of estate agents, I guess, and all these things that they were doing that they were not allowed to do. Point blank saying, we're not going to sell this property to you unless you use our mortgage broker. You can't do that.
But the thing is like you hear all these sort of horror stories and these scam stories and stuff, and it does give you it puts a barrier around you and makes you feel like you can't trust anybody. It's quite a weird feeling because you're going into as somebody that doesn't know about property. You're just trying to sell your house and trying to move somewhere else. You instantly go in with your guard up. Like I don't trust you because I've heard all of these stories. But I think what we need to understand is this isn't everyone, and there are genuine, real, trustworthy, wonderful estate agents out there that are out there to actually help you and be brilliant.
100%.
And you can find them online, like look via Property Mark, all that sort of stuff. So go in with caution, but not too much caution.
The good guys are out there. Absolutely. They are, and they want to help you.
They do exist.
Find a home, sell a home.
Yes,
for sure.
not everything is stress and a scam.
No,
but they do exist at the same time.
They do. No, I know. And it's about being wary,
Yes.
isn't it? It's the same with, when I move people to London all the time and people are like, oh, it's dangerous. And I'm like, no, it's opportunists. Don't let them take advantage. Same in the property world. Very quickly, I know we've obviously spoken about the scams that happen when you're searching for property and red flags in that term.
Yeah.
But what about red flags when you're actually physically going round and viewing a property?
Yes.
So things to look out for, I guess. What are some red flags in a property? I don't know if you've come across any of these, but things like structural issues. So subsidence, sagging roof, cracks, things like that.
Rot, damp,
yes,
mold.
yeah. All things that, by the way, are doable. They're not, it shouldn't necessarily stop you buying something, but they are big red flags to look out for in terms of risk and cost further down the line.
Well, this is what's just happened to a friend of mine. They managed to get their offer accepted on a property, and then I think the surveyor then come in to have a look at the property, etc., and found Japanese knotweed. I'd never heard of it. Never heard of it. But by this point, they'd already finished their rental contract, and now they're having to live with the in-laws because now they can't buy that house because of Japanese knotweed. What on earth is that?
Yeah, 2 words you don't want to hear in property. Japanese knotweed.
I didn't know it was a thing. Yeah. And bless, they're now having to live at the in-laws trying to find somewhere else to live. But it was such a huge issue. And everything all fell through because of this thing.
Yeah. And sometimes you can't even see it. It's kind of underground. It's such a strong plant. It can actually alter the foundations of a property, which is why it's so dangerous and people don't want to touch it. It can void insurances on properties as well. So it's not a good thing. I mean, it can be dealt with, but again, it's taking on that risk and it's costly and it spreads so quickly that it's one of those things that you really want to make sure that you've 100% got every bit of it out so it doesn't come back.
See, that was the tricky situation they found themselves in. I wasn't necessarily a red flag because at the time, I don't think anyone knew it was there.
Yeah.
So they viewed the property, they fell in love with the place. Brilliant. Right, let's now sort out the end of our contract on our rental.
Yeah.
Let's get the surveyor in, da-da-da-da-da. By that point, rental's now run out. Surveyor's gone in, can't buy this house. Great. And now they're living out of suitcases.
Yeah, and I think it's asking the questions as well, isn't it? So we're actually recording today a whole episode on 10 questions to ask. So you can look for that over on Move IQ. Yes, because it's so important, isn't it? Knowing what questions to ask so you don't get so far into a deal that you've then already spent money on it to only find out there's Japanese knotweed or there's something going on that you could have actually found out to begin with. So you mentioned earlier about the garage, right, that comes with your property. So a story the other way around is that always ask what land exactly comes with that property. So I actually worked with my boyfriend recently who owns a chain of estate agencies in West London, and I covered for one of his staff members for a day.
Okay.
And they've been trying to sell this property that had the most bizarre things. So you had a long driveway that went down to the property. There were like 2 cottages at the end of this driveway, but the land once belonged to the house next door who had built these cottages in the ground. So although you had your own driveway to these 2 cottages, there was actually a right of way from the main house across your garden.
What?
Yeah. So they had to have a gate, which meant that technically people from, I don't think they would, but from the house next door have the right of way across your garden.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely not.
And it happens a lot in the countryside. There might be a public footpath that actually goes through land that you own.
Yeah.
So it's checking things like that. I actually had a friend who, in reverse, bought a house, didn't realise that this bit of land next door came with it, and ended up with a whole plot of land that came with their house.
Oh, well, that's just a bonus.
I know.
That's just wonderful.
Literally.
That's a real green, wonderful flag. That's great.
Doesn't happen often, but you want to check exactly what comes with the property.
Can I give a bit of another personal tip?
Yeah.
From someone who 10 years ago bought a new build. So we bought a new build. We bought it in phase 1 of when they were building it. So it's, I think they've finished building finally by like phase 5 or whatever it's going to be. And we moved out of there a couple of years ago. But when we moved in, we bought the original show home.
Oh, nice.
Lovely. We viewed and we were like, oh, we can't afford a place like that. Then there was the government help to buy scheme and they went, actually, this has now come up for sale. And we went, well, we'll just take this place. Great. What I found was then the most important for the people that moved in after us, because when we moved in phase 1, we were told there's going to be shops coming within the next year. We were like, oh, okay, great, brilliant. So we'll be able to walk to some shops. Otherwise, you just couldn't walk to any shops from where the building was. And then as the years went on, no shops, more houses, no shops. And what we found was more and more people moving into the more and more phases, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, whatever. And then they're putting on the local Facebook group going, oh, we've been told that there's going to be shops within the next year or so. And we were like, oh, we've lived here 8 years and we were told 7 years ago there was going to be a shop and we still don't have a shop.
Yeah.
But what I found is if you're going to move into a new build and you're being told things like that, ask the locals.
Yeah, and ask the
locals. If you've got local people that are already living on that new build area and you're being told certain things, you're being told, yes, there's going to be a school, yes, there's going to be a shop, this, there's going to be this. If you know someone that's already lived on that new build site for 5 years or whatever, ask them.
Yes, I
ask
love that.
them.
Pop into the local coffee shop.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Start talking.
If it's been built.
If it's been built. Yeah. Yeah,
But if you spot
absolutely.
someone out walking their dog, just go, what's it actually like to live here?
To live around here.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah.
Basically. Yeah. Absolutely. And just very quickly, those other questions, we'll go through them in that top 10 questions anyway, but things like additional add-ons, let's say, that you have to think about instead of just putting down your deposits. Council tax. Always a big one.
Yeah.
What's the council tax band? And it again can be a bit of a red flag nowadays if people haven't listed that council tax band or the EPC rating. Ask about the tenure details. That could be a huge thing. So, and it can unfortunately put people off a sale. So ground rents, service charges, particularly in new builds. So very quick story. My boyfriend and I looked at new builds when we were looking to buy recently, and we thought they're not necessarily what we wanted to end up in, but it was just so beautiful. It was on the river, river views. And we thought, you know what, we could do this. Let's go and have a look. Went to have a look, actually kind of fell in love with one property, asked about the service charges, £14,000 a year.
A year?
Yep, a year. Then if you
Why?
then it didn't come with parking. You had to buy a parking space, which is quite common with new builds anyway. But £35,000 for a parking space, and we wanted 2. Then there was a service charge on the parking space of £2,000 a year.
Are you kidding me?
So service charge alone, I was like, no, that's me done. I'm out.
That's crazy.
Yeah, crazy. A massive hidden cost.
That's insane.
Yep, that's what I thought. I was like, I need to sit down and not come back.
No, that's a firm no. I'm done. I'm out.
No.
It's very nice to see you. Take care, love to the kids. No.
Yep.
My God, that's crazy.
Absolutely.
How on earth do you protect yourself with stuff like this?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, service charges are going to come with new builds. You're paying for facilities, you're paying for lift
Not
service,
14 grand,
concierge. No, I am not. But you pay for what you get. Like you're paying for all those things. So I get it.
Yeah,
That
looking
was
after the
extortionate.
grounds. But 14, that's
crazy.
Crazy.
Bonkers. So quick little recap then on how to protect yourself and make sure that you don't get scammed when it comes to property viewings. Always go through reputable sites. So your Rightmove, your Zooplas, you're on the market. Make sure that someone is a registered estate agent with those schemes that we mentioned. So the Property Redress Scheme, Property Mark, the Property Ombudsman, so that you can, if something goes wrong, the Property Ombudsman is there. It's like a public service. You can call them, explain a situation, and they will help you solve it or advise you what to do. So it's so important to have an agent that is part of one of those schemes. Asking those questions, ask as many questions as you can.
Be that annoying person.
Absolutely. And that's going to scare off any scammer.
Yeah.
If you start asking questions, if any of these agents, I'm going to say it like this because they're probably not agents.
Yeah.
If they are afraid of answering any of these questions, that's a massive red flag in itself.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If something's maybe listed a little bit too cheap, if the listing's very vague, if the pictures don't look professionally
If it's missing
taken,
details.
if it's missing those details, properties with major hidden defects, listings not on those official sites, and if you can't actually view it in person, if someone is constantly saying, we can't get into this property, or you're going to have to take it from the video, you're going to have to take it from the pictures, big red flag.
Yeah. So what we've learnt today is go with your gut. If it does seem too good to be true, it normally is. And be that incredibly irritating person and ask as many questions as possible.
Absolutely that.
I've learnt a lot today. Well done. God, I feel really stressed now.
Yeah, I know. De-stress, cup of tea.
And
And then you can watch those 10 questions.
Yes.
Yes.
And we'll see you next time.